All right, guys, we made it to our final episode in Cocktail Basics. This is the Bourboneering YouTube channel. I'm your host, Austin. Please like and subscribe. I haven't even told you this whole series, so please, in this last one, like and subscribe. It really helps us show. And hit the notification bell, join Notification Squad, or whatever it's called. All right. Before we get started, before we get any final thoughts, I want to shout out, I have a Discord channel. Go join that now. The link is down below, as well as a playlist to the rest of these videos. So if you're just joining us, go check those out. Today we're talking about gear, techniques, and glassware. So we're going to start with the gear to make cocktails. We're doing a little bit of terminology here. When you're serving a cocktail, you can serve it on the rocks, which is over ice, or you can serve it up, which is not on ice. Serve it neat. If you're pouring just a glass of spirit, it's called neat, but it's called up in a cocktail. So starting off with our very basics, we have a strainer. I told you in my very beginning basic episode, any kind of strainer or colander would work, and that's very, very true. But if you want to get into, a little bit higher actual bartending, this is a Hawthorne strainer. See the little spring here? This will help you keep ice chips out. Get that in a fine mesh strainer to really, really filter your cocktails, especially for shaking it. But this, I think, is a crucial piece of equipment. This is for shaken and stirred cocktails. Now we have a bar spoon, and I like a bar spoon rather than a regular spoon because it lets you mix really well, and I'll get to this in technique, but it really gets in here where you can get around the edge of your glass. Now getting into, move this glassware out of the way, getting into actual mixing of the cocktail. You can do two ways of, measuring the cocktail. You do it two ways. I told you, measuring cups, great. They work fine, work fantastically. Little ones like this. But I really suggest a jigger. Again, this Japanese style I really love. It has a 1 ounce side, so filling this in to the top is 1 ounce, and there's lines in between for 1/2 ounce and 3/4 ounce. This side, filling it all the way to the top, is 2 ounces, and there's a line in here for 1.5 ounces. So it's really easy to fill up, pour. It's great. So a jigger, really important. Now, what are you pouring all your spirits into? So most cocktails you're going to serve cold with ice, right? So we're going to have a couple ways to do it. General rule of thumb, you can stir it or you can shake it. You want to stir a cocktail, you want to shake a cocktail with a shaker if it has any kind of citrus juice or egg white. That'll really give a good texture and a good mix and a good dilution. If it doesn't have anything like that, if it's very heavily spirited like old fashions, you want to mix it. That's the general rule of thumb. There's scenarios, do it however you want. James Bond was technically wrong when he ordered his martini shaken, not stirred, but that's a whole other theory. Drink your cocktails how you want to drink them. Mix them how you want to mix them. But, so we have our mixing glass here, and this will go with our bar spoon, right? So you'll have your ice in the bottom of the container. You'll be pour in your spirit, pour in your mixers. General rule of thumb on that is you would like to go from least expensive to most expensive ingredient. In case you mess up, you're wasting the least amount of money when you dump it. I don't usually dump anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But usually it goes, for that old fashioned, I'll go simple syrup, I'll go spirits, I'll go bitters, mix, pour. For a sour, I'll go simple syrup, lemon juice, then spirit, then shake. So it is what it is. But here, you have ice on the bottom. You pour whatever you want in there, and then you'll stir. You notice how I'm keeping my spoon against the edge here. This will spin everything without really roughing up the ice. Give it as little dilution as possible. From there, take your spoon out, put on your strainer, your Hawthorne strainer like so. You can either do it open gate or closed gate. Closed gate will give you more of a filtering, more of ice, keep the ice out, and then you pour into your glass. If it's an old fashioned, pour over fresh ice. If you're serving it up in, like, say, a coupe glass like this, with not over ice, just have it up. We'll get to that in a second. We'll get to glassware. So that's how you stir a cocktail. Now, say you want to shake a cocktail. Very similar setup here. You'll have your your glass, instead of a mixing glass, you'll have a shaker tin. You can do the classic martini shaker tin that looks like this with a round dome top and a little filter at the end to shake. Those work, they're fine. Built-in shake. If you use those, I still suggest you take the whole top off and use a Hawthorne strainer, the better strainer. But you'll take one of your tins. I like to take one tin, fill it with ice, keep it cold. Take the other, pour in your spirit, you know, whatever you're mixing, whatever. And then, you pour this in here, have the ice in here, pour your cocktail over the ice, put on your shaker, give it a quick little tap, and shake. Shake like this. Now, some people shake like this, and it's fine, it's a little less dilution. The whole point here is to get aeration and dilution. Now, when I get more advanced, I'll talk about techniques such as dry shaking and reverse dry shaking. That just means shaking without ice, and that's usually what you do with an egg white to get it real frothy, but we'll get into that in the later episodes. For now, just know it's how you shake. Take it apart. Sometimes it takes a little banging to get it off because it gets stuck. Make sure your whole cocktail's on one side. Put on your Hawthorne strainer and pour. Just whatever you're pouring over. Easy enough, right? They're washable. They're great. So finally, let's get to glassware. The most ubiquitous, the most easily usable glass to me is a rocks glass or an old-fashioned glass. This is a Christmas one from Maker's Mark. Thank you, Maker's Mark. This, you can pour any cocktail in here. I do it all the time if I'm lazy. It's great for old fashions. Put ice in here, pour the cocktail over. Or if you want to serve a cocktail neat, this goes for any glass. If you want to serve it with ice, it doesn't matter. Just put your ice in, fresh ice in, and pour your cocktail. Put it in the freezer and chill it. If you're going to serve a cocktail up without ice, chill it. You can do that two ways. Either, like I said, put it in the freezer well ahead of time and get it nice and cold and pull it out right before you serve it. In fact, I have stuff in the freezer here. Or you can just fill this with ice water. Fill it with ice water and let it sit while you're making the cocktail. And then when you're ready, dump the ice water and pour your cocktail in. This is your old-fashioned glass. Your rock glass, use it for old-fashioned. Anything with ice, really, you use this kind of glass. This is real basic. I only have 3 glasses here. Real basic. There's tons of glasses. There's almost a different glass for every cocktail, so we're not getting into that. So when I ordered it on Amazon, it was called a coupe glass. I really think it's more of a Nick and Nora glass. Regardless, it's great I use it for sours. I use it for basically anything I serve up. Sours, margaritas, whatever. If I'm not doing a margarita on the rocks, I use this kind of glass. Only exception to that is when I'm making martinis, I use a martini glass just because I can and I have it and they were cheap. You can also do a martini in here. It works totally fine. But these two are very similar in their use. Put them in the freezer almost always. I usually keep 1 or 2 of these in the freezer at all times, so I make a cocktail, pull it out, ready to go. If not, ice water, great. So we talked about equipment, we talked about techniques, basic techniques, and we talked about glassware. You're ready to make a cocktail. Now go see any of my videos about making cocktails and see me use these techniques. I kind of talk about them there, but this is the detail. So thanks for watching, y'all. Hope you enjoyed this series. Let me know what you think. Cheers.